From WHYY and Billy Penn, it is Hittin season. Hey there, podcast pals. I'm John Stolnis from The Good Fight and Billy Penn. You can follow me on Twitter at John Stolnis. Coming up, man, oh man, has there been a hotter Phillies team in franchise history? There may have been a couple, but very few and far between what this Phillies team is doing right now. Fresh off a 4-game sweep of the San Francisco Giants at Citizens Bank Park, the fourth time in their last 6 series the Phillies have swept the team, and they own a Major League Baseball best record of 25-11. We're going to break down this series. We're going to talk about some of the more interesting decisions that have to be made by manager Rob Thompson with the starting rotation. Trea Turner's injury, we'll get into the after effects of that a little bit as well. Joining me, Justin Klugh, Liz Roscher. Justin Klugh, of course, from Baseball Prospectus, The Dirty Inning, absolutely hammered over at our Hittin Season Patreon. Follow him on Twitter, X, at Justin_Klugh. Justin, man, oh man, this Phil's team on a roll, buddy.
John, seeing you in that crisp new City Connect jersey is really making me think how far we've come. I mean, that had to be, 6-8 weeks ago we were talking about the City Connect as the dominating story of this franchise. And now life is all about talking about that horrible Detroit Tigers City Connect jersey that looks like the generic team franchise jersey from an old video game that you made up. Yeah, I gotta tell you, it is so easy to tune into a Phillies game right now. I was kind of trying to, when they get on a roll like this, I try to appreciate it as it's happening instead of being like, remember back in May when they were doing really. I would try to this is good. This is the kind of baseball we keep saying we want. So I'm not gonna look at this and find little things to complain about. We do have to fill an hour show, so
right, there's
gonna happen. But in the moment, at least, I'm like, yeah, no, this is great. This is what we want. And really, like you said, I think it really hasn't been this easy and fun to tune into a Phillies game since probably 2011. We had the last 2 years, but I'm saying this team has not looked this good this early in what feels like forever.
No, and the thing, and I'm going to read some numbers here in just a second that bear out the start that this team is off to, but very few teams have ever gotten off to this kind of a start here in franchise history. Liz Roscher from Yahoo Sports, follow her on X at Liz Roscher. I mean, we are, Liz, witnessing history. I mean, in 1993, this is what I remember, this team racing out to that super fast start. But the difference was in 93, there was absolutely no basis to expect that team was going to do what they did. This time, it really feels like, this is a good team. It's an established team, and they are playing up to their potential.
I have to say, I didn't expect them to lose Trea Turner and then dominate.
Yeah.
I didn't expect them to, or to just dominate this period. They're talking about it being 2011 Phillies, 2010 Phillies, I think, were a little spottier, a little less they said on the broadcast that they had 2 different winning streaks in 2010 of 10 games or more. Mm-hmm. And that was the last time that happened. I think the only time in franchise history that happened at home. Those are home records. So, I'm feeling 2011-ish. I'm feeling 2010-ish. It's feeling good, and I'm trying to remind myself to enjoy it instead of being afraid. It's a little tough right now because everything is going it's not just going well. It's going really well. It's going is anyone else suspicious? What's going on?
There's a shoe that's going to drop.
I'm not actually suspicious, but I am. What's happening?
It's early May. Of course, another shoe will drop. Several shoes will probably drop over the course of the next few months. That's not really important, and it kind of is how you can unravel the whole, but they've been playing these cupcake teams argument, which is simply that they stockpiling wins now is because, you do that because, they're going to face some more challenging teams later. You also just do it because that's the game you're scheduled to play, and you would preferably win rather than lose. There are plenty of Phillies teams that don't stand up to teams like the White Sox or Rockies, even though they're supposed to, and certainly the Giants, who are better than those teams. Not by a lot, but they are better. Well, no, by a lot. Those teams are really, really bad.
They're really bad.
And this Giants team was just a couple games under 500, fringe playoff contender projected when the season started. And now the Phillies have kind of buried them even further. I think they were 7.5 games out in the NL West before the series started. Yeah. Things have not gotten better for them. And that's I think that's why winning right now, you can say, well, that's why winning right now is so important, but winning anytime is so important. So the fact the Phillies can win this much at any time, beating anybody, really matters a lot because, hey, look, they're already in first place in the NL East. I don't know when we expected that to happen, but probably for a lot of us, we never expected that to happen. So
yeah, the Braves were swept by the Dodgers over the weekend, and they were idle on Monday. So the Phillies enter play on Tuesday with a 3-game lead in the National League East. And Justin, you're right. I mean, the opponents that they faced have been relative cupcakes. They've had one of the easiest schedules in baseball so far this year. Their opponents have a combined .458 winning percentage. That's third lowest in baseball. But it's one thing to do well against the bad teams. It's another thing to buzzsaw through everybody the way that they're doing it right now. And there's just little chips of the Giants like flying backwards as the Phillies just chew their way through everybody that they're playing right now. 4-game sweep. I don't care how bad a team is. Sweeping a 4-game series is difficult, whether it's at home, on the road, Rockies, White Sox, Giants. It's 4 games in a row is really, really difficult. And what they're doing is the starting pitching continues to be great. The offense is doing plenty every night, it seems. There's a different hero stepping up. That's what it's been all season long. The Phillies have won 6 straight series, and it's really remarkable to win 6 straight series, and have swept 4 of them. And we talk about the best starts in Phillies history: 26-10 in 1976, 26-10 in 1993, and this year's 25-11. And I'll remind people who don't remember, in 1993, the Phillies raced off to that incredible start through May. They played .500 ball from June through September. So if you go through and rip off a bunch of wins in April and May, you don't need to do a whole lot more than play .500 ball and end up with 97 wins like the 93 Phillies did. So you can, and people can bag on this start all that they want to, and maybe if we're the Braves,
who's doing that?
There are lots
other
of people.
teams fans.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
mostly other
thought you
teams'
meant
fans,
Phillies fans. Other teams' fans, I don't care about them.
Really doesn't at this point warrant even consideration. The Phillies are winning, other teams aren't. That's the way we enjoy baseball. So there's nothing really to complain about on that front. If you want to break down, well, this could mean less wins later because the quality of teams they're beating is very low. Okay, if you want to worry about what might happen later against some kind of ambiguous buzzsaw team the Phillies are going to have to face, all right, there's nothing anybody's going to be able to do to convince you that this team's hot. But right now, this team has 25 wins, the most of anybody in baseball. They are the hottest team in baseball. The rotation is standing up to everybody. And even with injuries to key players, like people who have been contributing, they're still managing to win games by a run. They're still managing to win games by 12 runs. They are still managing to outpitch
all
teams.
Different
they are
ways.
still managing to outhit teams.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a whole lot you can do to you got to really break this team down a lot to find stuff that you really want to be concerned about. Like, for instance, at the end of the game today when John Kruk and Tom McCarthy were talking about how Alec Boehm looks like his hips bothering him out there at third base. And I was just like, shut up.
Right.
We don't need to talk about this.
I know exactly what they were referring to. He was doing a shimmy at third base. And I'm like, I mean...
Oh, I didn't think they were wrong. I just didn't want to hear about it.
I don't want to hear about it either, but I'm just remembering it. I'm just like, I mean, probably, but stop mentioning it.
Yeah,
please.
Yeah. And the Phillies have been remarkably healthy throughout most of the season. We're going to get to the Trea Turner injury in just a second and what the Phillies are going to do there, what they've done the last couple of days. But I mean, the schedules even out during the course of a season, and everybody knows that. And it's not really like saying, well, the Phillies are going to play easier teams than anybody else. No, but they are getting off to a hot start, largely because they haven't played a whole lot of really good teams, and that's, by the way, going to continue for a little while. The Blue Jays come to town at 16-19 for a 2-game series Tuesday and Wednesday. And then the Phillies go to Miami for a 3-game series with the 10-26 Marlins. And then they go to New York for a 3-game series for a 2-game series with the Mets. Actually, that's the 2-2. I think the London game is in the mix there. Is that right? Is that when the London game is?
That's in mid-June.
Mid-June. Okay. All right. And then they get the Nationals after that, who are, spunky, but certainly they're about on par with the Giants and the Reds and the Padres. You know, they're in that mix. So, look, I think
the Phillies should beat every team right now, except like the Dodgers and Braves are obviously two of the best teams in the National League, despite the Braves struggling against the Dodgers. But like, those are the Phillies' competition right now.
And that's what I'm saying. How many good teams are there in base?
And the teams that the Phillies are facing they've mostly been National League teams. It's the same teams that the Braves are going to face because they are also in the National League. Like, they're also going to face the Pirates and the Cardinals if they haven't already. And the Phillies will face the Dodgers. Like, these are all... The Phillies have to play every team in the National League. That's how this works.
Well, they balance the schedule. Everybody plays everybody.
Exactly.
They're all literally going to play all the same teams.
Exactly. I saw this and I feel like the schedule has been balanced for a while, hasn't it? It's been balanced
since
for
last year. They did this.
Why are we talking about this? Why are we talking about, I'm sorry their schedule has been quote unquote easy for the first, 6 weeks. Like, that will balance out whiny Braves fans who don't know how time works.
Well, I see. There are some Phillies fans who always want to pump the brakes, right? Because they always do have the doom and gloom. And look, a team like the 1995 Phillies, I wrote about this for the Good Fight this week. The 95 Phillies got off to an insanely hot start as well.
Jim Eisenreich,
Charlie Hayes, Mickey Morandini. That was the Tyler Green All-Star season. I mean, it was the last remnants of the 93 team. You had Dykstra there for a little while. Dalton Hollins was still on the team. He got traded midseason. I mean, if you go back, Greg Jeffrey's first season with the team, if you go back and look at that 95 team, you could see that it was paper thin. And you could see when the Reds and Braves came to town for that early June series, the Reds had like the best record in the National League. The Braves were still lurking. The Phillies got their doors blown off, and you knew after that it was over. And they went and they lost like 16 of 19 after having like the best record in baseball through late May. So I mean, or early June it was. So this isn't that, is my point, right? I mean, yes, the Phillies have benefited from an easy schedule, and the Braves will get an easier part of their. By the way, the Braves schedule 21st out of 30 teams in terms of difficulty. Like, this Dodgers series was really the first big test for them this year. So
and they blew it.
And they blew it. They did not play well. So, I mean, yes, certainly I do not expect the Phillies to play at a 700 clip the rest of the season. What's important to understand is, what are you seeing? You're seeing effective starting pitching that I think would be good against just about everybody. You're seeing an offense that is winning with home runs, but also winning with some small ball. And they've managed to do it so far without Bryce Harper getting really hot. And I guess that's kind of what I want to, let's bring it back to the Giants series a little bit. And we don't have to go through all 4 games and everything that happened in these 4 games. But Justin, let me ask you, like, just one or two takeaways from this Giants series, like a performance that stood out, a player that stood out, something that you saw that really grabbed your attention, that's notable from what we saw here this weekend.
Well, I think the main thing, because you lose Trea Turner, that obviously feels like that's going to be the big moment of the series. But for me, it was the filling in of Turner, and not only that, like, first of all, just seeing guys like Harper start to seemingly heat up. Somebody even like Castellanos knocking in a run today, giving them some more breathing room. That felt good. And it was just, you were able to believe that this team's going to be able to fill in the gap left behind by losing one of their best hitters for the next 6 weeks, which was especially devastating because early on, the early comments were, well, it'll be a couple of days. And then it was, well, now he's on the 10-day injured list. And then, well, now it's going to be 6 weeks. And anything before that would be a bonus, as Trea Turner put it. So that seemed like a very cataclysmic moment, like, for this team. Like, how are they going to respond? All right. This is one of like 3 guys who's been carrying this offense through the first month or so of the season. How's this offense going to respond? And lo and behold, they managed to win out the rest of the series, and a couple of guys who have been lurking in the background kind of stepped into the foreground. I mean, you also had Alec Boehm continue doing what he does until today when the 18-game win streak or hit streak ended. But even so, guys who, didn't even look especially electrifying were able to come through with a hit when the Phillies needed it or get on base when the Phillies needed it. So I feel like that aspect was really beneficial and helped alleviate the concerns of losing your 350 hitter hitting out of the 2 spot. I think for me, another part of that was also just seeing how the team kind of reacted. If you see Trea Turner in the dugout, he's like, I'm going to be with the team for this the 6 weeks that I'm out. I'm going to stick around, and he seems like very laid back and feeling okay about the situation. Like it's not super devastating. Obviously, he'd rather be out there, and they would rather him be out there. But he seemed like, okay, we know what the problem is, and we know what the timetable is, and now I just got to heal. And it wasn't like he wasn't doing his job, and this is just a great excuse to get him out of the lineup. It's not like there's not other guys who can fulfill that role and step up. And just seeing them all and hearing Whit Merrifield talk after the game today, talk about how they're giving him crap, like, Bryson Stott makes that great stop at shortstop. Not sure if Seven makes that play when he's out there.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. They're staying loose regardless of the obstacles that have been put in front of them, and that for me was really comforting to see.
Yeah, and I think that, Liz, that raises the question of what's the optimal solution for replacing Trea Turner at this point. We've seen a couple different iterations. We've seen Edmundo Sosa as the starting shortstop with Bryson Stott staying at second base. And in the game on Monday, Bryson Stott moved over and played shortstop for the first time since the Game 6 of the World Series in 2022 and started a diving double play in the first inning. The ball finds you, right, when you're in a situation like that, with Stott at shortstop and Whit Merrifield playing second base. What's your preference in terms of alignment there, shortstop, second base with Trea Turner out?
I would definitely prefer Stott. I think be at shortstop, but I'm fine either way. I think they're going to have to mix and match a little bit, to make it work, because I don't think they want to put him exclusively at shortstop because he is a very good second baseman, and I don't think they want to lose that all the time. So, I think mixing it up will be fine. I don't think there has to be an optimal solution. I think what they have and what they're working with is going to do just fine. I mean, as we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, Justin, I guess that's true. I mean, they didn't want Whit Merrifield to play every day anyway, and you certainly don't want to overexpose Edmundo Sosa. And there's an opportunity here for actually your defense to be. I mean, Trea Turner's certainly, don't get me wrong, I would rather Trea Turner's in the field, but Trea has been a little bit shaky with the glove. So I mean, maybe you pick up a little bit of defense there at shortstop for the next few weeks while he's out. I'm just trying to find a silver lining where you can with Trea Turner being out.
I mean, the truth is there's very far from an ideal circumstance to put forth here. You just kind of have to hope that the guys you got to fill in this case are able to step up. Guys like Whit Merrifield have not been having the greatest year so far. He looked a little more with it, I think, in this series. Certainly closed out in a better place. But,
he's up to 250, a 250 batting average with a 708 OPS. Again, not great, but certainly it's on the way up.
Having him at second and Stott at short is, again, not what the Phillies wanted to see for large chunks of the year. You also don't want Edmundo Sosa playing shortstop all the time. But knowing Rob Thompson, this is a situation not that he likes, and I don't want to say not that he thrives in. It's more just the idea that he's going to be able to rearrange these guys, which is apparently just something that he loves to do. And I don't think your concerns about somebody getting overexposed at a particular position, I think that will eventually happen because that's the kind of players we're dealing with now. Sosa can get easily overexposed. I think Merrifield can also clearly get overexposed, but the Phillies also have wanted to use him 2 to 3 times a week. That's what he was acquired to do. So I think with a missing starter, you're going to see these guys that's what it's going to be. That's why they're not starters, but they're also, Sosa is still, he's a capable player. And so is Merrifield, but a little lower on him as the season has gone on. And as far as what layout is best for them right now, I mean, today, like Liz said, Stott at short and Merrifield at second look pretty good. But yeah, Thompson being Thompson and the situation being what it is, I think you're going to see guys get moved around. It's going to depend on matchups. It's going to depend on who's pitching. It's going to depend on where they're playing. But Rob Thompson's obviously going to have a field day tinkering with that situation. I think and I think in this case, it's in their best interest to not put like the same guys out there in the same position over the next 6 weeks, because you're dealing with guys who do get overexposed.
And I guess even the better question is who hits in the 2-hole when JT Realmuto has to sit. Now, Realmuto almost never sits, but about once a week, they probably want to get him a spot on the bench. And you want to have a right-hander in between Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper at the top of the lineup. So you're adding Edmundo Sosa or Whit Merrifield to the lineup. Alec Bohm would be a consideration, but he's been doing pretty great in the cleanup spot with all the RBI chances. I think they're reluctant to move him up. Nick Castellanos, if Realmuto's not in the lineup, he's doing a little better, right? But Castellanos is certainly, I don't think, a prototypical 2-hole hitter, although he does walk a lot. I mean, he's walking more, so maybe that works right there. Or do you put Merrifield in the 2-hole, like when Realmuto isn't playing? Do you have Whit Merrifield there, Liz? How do you handle the 2 spot in the order when Realmuto has to sit?
It's like 1 game a week. I think you could put Castellanos there if you wanted. I think the idea of putting Whit Merrifield there did make me laugh. But I did just say it's 1 game a week. Like, I think Castellanos would be a better fit, since you do not move Alec Bohm. Just let him keep doing what he's doing. Just let him be. So, with that in mind, Realmuto's almost never going to sit. I think he's supposed to sit on Tuesday.
He is.
And so, which is why we're talking about this. So,
right.
There's, you have to have someone there.
Right. And
I'll be eager to see what he does.
I think you're going to see Castellanos there.
Yeah.
I think
really?
he wants to. I think he wants to shove him front and center. I think he's going to try and see what he's. Hey man, this is your chance. You wanted to step up when Hoskins got hurt, and that was something of a success, at least for a little while. This is your time. It's been 5 weeks, 6 weeks since the season started. You've been struggling for most of the entire time, and he's played in every game so far. So like, obviously a rest day is warranted, but I think Castellanos, because that's the guy that he's going to be able to put out there consistently. You look at the other options. He's not putting Rojas in the 2-hole. I don't think. He's not putting Pache in the 2-hole.
Who?
Probably not. Merrifield may, okay, I could see him getting squirrely and doing that, and everybody freaking out on Twitter before the game starts.
That was my thought. I thought it would be Merrifield, honestly.
Yeah. I think you can get away with that, sure. But I again, this is an unideal situation. There's no name going there that isn't the name of a guy who A, shouldn't be starting, or B, has been struggling a lot lately. So I think you could see some Castellanos there, certainly, because that's like your everyday player, your other everyday player option who is right-handed if he's not going to move Bohm out of the cleanup spot, which he shouldn't. So that's I think the answer.
I have to wonder how Castellanos might do with a little bit more pressure on him consistently. It might. Let's
just see.
Yeah.
Let's take 25 wins out for a spin here. Why not?
I don't hate that idea.
Yeah. I mean, I don't hate it either, because if he's overthinking things, put him in a situation where it is unwise for him to do so, and he just can't. He's got a guy on base, and you can't screw around.
Yeah, I mean, and Castellanos, you did pay him all this money to be an impact player for you. Let's sink or swim, right? I mean, that's kind of, and like you said, we're talking about 1 game a week because JT Realmuto has done exceedingly well in the 2-hole in just a couple of games since Trea Turner got hurt, but looking more like vintage JT Realmuto. He was he worked a bunch of walks in his first start in the 2-hole. Then in the game on Sunday, was swinging early in the count and got 3 singles in the game here on Monday. 2 for 5 with a run scored for him. So it's great to see Realmuto kind of step up in these last few games. But like you said, he is going to get a break here this coming week, and so it'll be interesting to see. I wouldn't hate Castellanos. Like I said, a sink or swim situation in the number 2 spot. I could very easily see them going to Whit Merrifield. If you're asking me if it's like bottom of the 9th and like the 2-hole guy is like the last one up, would I rather see Castellanos in that spot or Whit Merrifield? I might want Whit Merrifield before Castellanos right now.
Yeah.
Which is why I was thinking I would want him in the 2-hole. Give him the extra at bat as opposed to Castellanos, if possible. But yeah,
I think he's gonna. Thompson's not gonna be able to help himself. I think at least once he's going to slip Castellanos into that 2 spot.
There won't be any as is with everything with Rob Thompson, there won't be one solution to a problem, right? And we're going to get into that with the pitching in just a second either.
Why solve a problem once when you can solve it 5 or 6 times?
That's right.
I mean, every manager wants. I mean, what manager wouldn't want the toolbox that he has?
Yeah.
Because he gets to play around and be like, all right, well, some of these other guys are going to do their job, and I can play around here and see if something works. Like we're talking about all the different options. Who could blame him for wanting to try all the different combinations? Absolutely. Let's try them all.
I just want to add that one of the things we used to talk about in the pre-playoff era times was how the better your team is, the more specific your complaints and concerns become. And, worrying about when will this team hit? When will this offense get it in gear? Then narrowing into who will hit in the 2-hole when the catcher has an off day.
How far we've come.
Yeah.
Feels like the Phillies must be doing pretty well.
Phillies have lots of good problems right now.
We made it.
I've got lots. It's where they are right now. They've got lots of nothing but good problems on their hands here. Liz, I asked Justin one takeaway, one thing from the Giants series. What about you? Is there anything from this 4-game set with the Giants? One big takeaway for you, or one player that you took hold of? And I don't know. What do you think?
I think we're going to talk about. I couldn't stop thinking about Brandon Marsh after Sunday Night Baseball, but we're going to talk about him later.
No, let's talk about it now. I got no order in my shoe. Do whatever.
No, he was just endearing. He can't stop talking about his love for Alec Boehm. You can't get better than this.
He's getting prompted on that a lot.
He is getting prompted on that a lot, but he's enjoying it too. What? They're getting a chance to sort of showcase their friendship to everybody. That's a weird opportunity to have, but why? It seems like they're enjoying it.
I feel like Sunday Night Baseball, you always got to gear up for whatever they want the game to be about, because they have a script ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
And clearly during that broadcast, they wanted that game to be about Logan Webb and how good he has been for the Giants and how promising he has and his arsenal and his pitch speed and all that, all the little graphics they drew. And boy, they rebranded that game into the Brandon Marsh, Alec Boehm show real quick after things went the other way.
Yeah, that's a broadcasting pivot, friends. And for those of you who aren't aware with that, they come up with a number of different topics during their pre-show meetings, pre-game meetings during the course of the week when they're in, and clearly they read. Was it Alex Coffey who wrote the article about Marsh and Boehm? Yeah, it seems like Alex writes just about every article we talk about.
I think Gelb also wrote.
Actually, it might have been Gelb.
Yeah, I think this was Gelb. Yeah. But I think everybody had something about them. Yeah. A number of the Phillies beats had something about them recently.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing about the Marsh thing too, even just aside from the Boehm bromance, is just the personality. I mean, that's the thing with baseball players. A lot of times in these mic'd up moments, it's really dry. It's really boring. They don't have, you listen to NFL mic'd up stuff, and it's entertaining as all get out. I mean, some of the stuff that gets said on sidelines and in games and stuff like that, it's wild and fun, and you wait for those moments with the mic'd up things in baseball. Sometimes they're really good, but it's obviously a calmer game most of the time. I don't think Brandon Marsh does anything calm. Everything is his wet hair on fire, and it was watching him be able to call off Rojas on that last fly ball to end the inning, and then as he's jogging in, come up with the name of a band off the top of his head that is surely going to be a best-selling T-shirt on Etsy for the next year. I mean, I think he is becoming, as he's getting better as a player, becoming a star in front of our eyes, because you've got the look, you've got the personality, and now you've got the results at the plate. And he's one of the best defenders in left field as well. It's really kind of cool watching him emerge from the 8-hole hitter on a 2022 Phillies team that you were just hoping wouldn't make it out in a big spot, to now being a central part of everything the Phillies are doing right now. It's a very, very cool metamorphosis of Brandon Marsh.
Speaking of players calling off other players, I have this theory that, based on this last series, on occasion, when it's a play that's, either deep pop fly or a shallow fly ball to right, And obviously for a while it was Stott. And for now it might be somebody else. But Stott would go out and Castellanos would come in. And there just always seemed, this is all anecdotal, by the way. This always seemed like they get closer together before one of them departs, typically Stott, and clears away for the other one to make a catch. Do you guys think that Castellanos is a bit of a mumbler when it comes to calling off, like and saying "I got it"? I think he might be.
Yeah, I can see that.
Probably.
I think this is. I like this theory.
I'm not saying it's going to cause. It clearly hasn't caused problems as of yet. But I was like, I bet he's just like, I got it, and Stott's just like not picking it up until he's 10 steps away, and he's got to just dramatically dodge out of the way, and like, something, little things you notice when you're not like, boy, I hope someone can pitch today. Boy, I sure hope the Phillies knock in a single runner in scoring position today. When you don't have to worry about these broad issues, you can find little things like that.
Little things, that's right. My big takeaway from the series was the Phillies have the best record in baseball, and it only seems like just now Bryce Harper is starting to get hot, which they've done all this with Bryce Harper being a better than average offensive player. He's been fine, but he has not been Bryce Harper. Well, 2 3-run home runs in his last 2 games in big spots, early in games that took a small lead or a scoreless game and ballooned it into a more comfortable lead. 3-run home runs are the best. They're just the best. I love 3-run home runs. We should just do nothing but hit 3-run home runs. And Harper missed one in, I guess it was in the 3rd inning, I think, or 4th inning of the game here on Monday, and then later in the game made up for it and finally launched one to left center field. And he's starting to get that look now. He's starting to elevate. This is the first time he's hit home runs in back-to-back games. He had that 3-home run game earlier in the season and then went dark for a while, and then popped up, hit a home run, and then went dark for a while. I think we're now... If Bryce Harper is just now starting to get hot when Trea Turner is out of the lineup, it's beautiful timing. And the Phillies continue to ride Zack Wheeler, and with the dominance on Monday, 7 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 0 earned runs, 11 strikeouts, 1 walk. He's got a 1.64 ERA, a 0.87 WHIP. 63 strikeouts, 12 walks, and 29 1/3 innings so far this year. No starts has he allowed more hits than innings pitched so far this season for Zack Wheeler. And you just had on Monday, your 2 stars were the name of the game. Zack Wheeler is your best pitcher. Bryce Harper is your best position player. And both those guys just decided, no, we're going to sweep this team, and there's nothing the Giants can do about it. And it's cool that could the Phillies have gotten this far with a Bryce Harper that hadn't even started to get hot yet. Now Bryce Harper's going to get hot? Okay, good luck, everybody.
Alec Boehm and Trea Turner were like carrying the team for a little while, and then Trea Turner has gone down, and like Bryce Harper is suddenly emerging. It's just like a groundhog poking his head up, like, oh, I've got it back. I'm ready.
It's what good teams do.
Real Muto had 6 hits in this series, including a double and a triple. So he also was doing his part throughout as part of this offense, which he's been pretty unsung, I think, throughout most of the season, and largely because he gets hot for a couple of days, then he kind of doesn't know for just a 1 hit over 2 or 3 games. But that's the pace you can operate on when other guys are carrying the weight. But at the same time, that's that lurking in the background thing I was talking about earlier, where it's like, if you can be steady while a key member of your offense is gone, that's going to help. But also being steady is the foundation to getting hot. Like you just start seeing worse pitching, or you're just seeing the ball better from the hitting you've been able to do. That's going to help you a lot. And so a guy like Real Muto is primed to really step up, as he did in this series in the absence of one of their best hitters. But like you said, when Bryce Harper steps up, it's just a lot louder and it's a lot farther.
Well, the thing is, Harper's floor is so high that when he actually starts to play to his potential, it's otherworldly. But I mean, even last year when he had that long 30-some-odd game homer drought when he first got back, he was still at an on-base percentage of like in the 350s. Like he's still contributing. He's still doing positive things, and it's the same thing this season. I mean, as he hasn't been tearing the cover off the ball until just now, and it looks like maybe we're going to be entering a hot Bryce Harper portion of his season. And also say Bryson Stott looks like he's starting to wake up a little bit here. He's hitting the ball more line drives this in this series than he had been previously. A lot of fly balls, a lot of ground balls from him. Stott coming up with some big hits as well. So just again, everybody's pitching in, everybody's doing a little bit. The starting rotation again had another good turn through the rotation here against the Giants. Nola struggled a little bit in the first game of the series, only went 4 innings, but minimized the damage. The bullpen was great. Really, the bullpen was great throughout this series for the most part. Really nice to see the bullpen start to step up. And now Ranger Suarez had another good game on Saturday. Taijuan Walker pitched pretty well on Sunday, outpitched Logan Webb, as you just mentioned. I don't think any of us saw that coming. So again, when things are going right, things are going right. And I want to get your thoughts on I want you guys to pick a favorite Phillies stat that you think is, I don't know, the most amazing or the coolest stat or whatever. I want you to choose among these 4. Liz, let me start with you. All right. After a scoreless 8th inning on Monday, Matt Strahm has not allowed an earned run in 38 days. All right. That is amazing stat number 1. Stat number 2. The Phillies now have a 3-game lead on the Braves. It is their largest lead in the National League East since May 31st of 2019. All right, stat number 3. The lowest ERA by a Phillies starter in their first 8 starts of the season. Roy Halladay, 1.59 in 2010. Brett Myers, 1.63 in 2005. And Zack Wheeler, a 1.64 ERA here in 2024. And then the last one, the Phillies have now won 10 straight home games, tied for their 3rd longest home winning streak in the last 40 years, behind only a 16-game home winning streak in 1991 and a 12-game streak in 2010.
Those are some good ones.
Yeah.
I'm going to say my favorite stat is got to be that this 3 games is their largest NL East lead in 5 years.
Yeah.
5 years. That is... I remember what I was doing that weekend because that was the weekend that I had to sign off of the podcast because a tornado hit my home.
Was that weekend?
That was Memorial Day weekend 2019. Before that weekend started, I was stressing because I had sent out the wrong address for the venue on my wedding invitations. I forgot about that completely afterward.
Wow.
Yeah, but
And
that's
then the
my
tornado
favorite.
just sent out all the invitations from you
did.
On their own.
in
On their
every
own.
direction. They went to no one you intended them to,
Nope.
but that didn't matter because they were wrong.
The wedding was full of strangers. Did not know anybody. It was a real fun time.
Yeah, the entire Dayton Dragons team showed up. That
It was very strange.
Odd.
But yeah,
I will
that's...
say the
Go ahead.
the coolest stat, first of all, is definitely that today, on May 6th, 2024, in the year of our, I already said the year of our Lord 2024, Nicholas Castellanos had 2 hits, 1 for extra bases, and 2 walks, and 0 strikeouts.
Yeah.
That's a big league. That's a big league game.
That's a good
for
day.
For our big league boy.
Yeah.
He's a little bit at a time, but
Yeah.
hey, that's something. I would have taken 0 strikeouts on the day, honestly.
Right.
That's impressive enough.
That's a
but
productive day.
Yeah, we've adjusted our standards for Nick Castellanos, haven't we? I mean, I don't think
Just a little
anybody...
bit.
Nobody...
He's got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
It's got to start somewhere, and maybe
Yeah.
maybe it started today. But to answer your question, if you're going to give me a multiple choice, and one of the choices is Matt
Yeah,
Strahm.
I knew it.
Yeah, I
I
had a
didn't
feeling.
choose that one.
I
so
put that
maybe,
in there
but-
because I thought you'd like that one.
38 days is such a cherry pick, too, because if you're saying days, it's like he didn't even pitch all of those days. But at the same time, it's over a month.
I am
and
38 days
that's
older
massive.
since the last time that man gave up an earned run.
Yes.
That's the stat.
Yeah, and that's extremely impressive, and it's what you want when you talk about. I think on Baseball Tonight they were talking about like the Phillies briefly in between Shohei Ohtani and I guess the Braves talk. They managed to fit some Phillies stuff in there, and one of the things they were kind of zipping ahead to the trade deadline, and they were like, yeah, maybe like another big name reliever for the Phillies bullpen. And I mean, if you're talking about adding big name relievers, you're basically saying this team has like a lot going on who couldn't use bullpen help in a couple months' time. Let's just say this. And, fair enough. But then you look at the Phillies bullpen and, we haven't been gushing about them like we have in other years. There have been, some stressful moments. I'm back to being just nothing but uncomfortable with Gregory Soto on the mound.
Yeah.
Like it's just it's kind of same as it ever was.
That's the way it's always going to be. Yeah.
But to be able to have one of the Phillies starters, any of the Phillies starters, pitch into like the 7th inning, 6th, 7th inning, and then be able to turn to Matt Strahm, Jose Alvarado, or Jeff Hoffman, that alone is a huge, huge boon for this team. To have guys you feel like you can really rely on. Jeff Hoffman, by the way.
Oh,
boy.
man.
He's the best.
Talk about big boy
him.
baseball. Holy Moses.
I thought he was going to regress. I was so worried that he was going to be the guy that regresses this year. I really was.
Tell that to the vein popping, full throat screaming Jeff Hoffman who left the field after getting out of that situation. My goodness, I was amped up after that. But yeah, got to be the Matt Strahm stat, because if you want to, it's fun to talk about a guy in your bullpen who has a ton of like personality and intensity, doing a great job. If you can talk about more than one guy like that in your bullpen, you got a pretty good bullpen. And those 3 guys make the Phillies a pretty good bullpen. So to be able to say 38 days without an earned run, is that what you said?
38 days without an earned run.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's nuts.
Yeah. And I'll say this too: Kirk Ring's pitched really well since he got called back up, and so he's again, they're easing him into high leverage, but starting to be comfortable with him in some of these spots.
He's easing himself into higher leverage situations.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about that strategy in general? I don't think it's possible. That's my issue with it, because they said they were going to keep Sir Anthony out of high leverage situations. And then 2 days later, he was pitching with like a 4-3 lead. So you don't always get the kind of leverage situations you think you're going to get, and if that's the guy you got to use, then he's going in.
Sure.
So I don't know. I know they like to say that, but I don't know if it's really logistically plausible.
I think it's just something that they have to say. Because they have to say it. Because you put a pitcher in, and like I said, he could create his own high leverage situation.
Yeah, that's very true. Yep. That's very true.
We're going to have Kirk Ring just play MLB The Show in the clubhouse for a couple of days. Then we'll tell him where his cleats are.
Man, I will say this. I didn't. When the Phillies signed Matt Strahm, I didn't think it was a bad signing, but I didn't understand it because I'd never heard of him. He was not a marquee free agent, and they signed him to a 2-year deal when all they'd ever done was sign relievers to 1-year deals. Like, why this guy? Why Matt Strahm? It's been a brilliant free agent signing. I didn't see it coming. It's probably the most underrated, great free agent signing by Dave Dombrowski over these last few years.
And extension.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Don't forget.
Exactly. I forgot. No, I did. And it's paid dividends tremendously. He's been so valuable.
Was
really.
Hoffman a trade, or was he a signing? I'm trying to remember.
Pretty sure he was
not
a signing.
trade. Yeah.
Okay. Either like the Phillies
that was a good one,
scouting.
too.
I was going to say the Phillies scouting department and Dave Dombrowski combined really have found some like incredible. They've created some incredible wins for
the development
team.
guys. Yeah.
Because I think these guys were not bad when they got here, but you always hope that the team can help make them better, and that's part of why they wanted them to come, is that they felt that they could turn them into something better. And then it actually worked.
Yeah.
It worked twice.
Hoffman spent 2023 spring training with the Twins, and they released him, and 3 days later the Phillies signed him.
That used to happen to the Phillies, not for the Phillies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How many times the Phillies release somebody, some other team picks him up, and he's like a Dave Stewart back in the day. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, he was in our hen house. We had him right here. The Phillies are now doing that to other teams, which is Jose Alvarado. Just kind of fun to see what they're able to do. Developing
Did that
players.
One to the Rays.
Yeah,
You get bonus points for that.
And Christopher Sanchez too. I mean, like that another Rays trade. Although I think the Rays are going to make out well with that trade. Is that the prospect they got from the Phillies is a really highly rated prospect. But either way, the Phillies are developing players to be productive at the major league level. They were not doing that under the previous regime. So whatever it is they're doing good. Last thing before we wrap up, there is the Phillies rotation is in flux in a good way. They have too many starting pitchers. There's a lot of teams in baseball that would kill to have the problem that the Phillies have with, we have six starting pitchers we need to find starts for. What are we going to do? But it is kind of an issue here with Spencer Turnbull having gotten off to the start that he did this year, and Taijuan Walker coming back, making big money. You can't play him in the minors. He's not a bullpen guy, so if he's going to be on your team, you kind of have to pitch him. And you've still got Christopher Sanchez, who they're a little concerned with innings for him. He pitched 150 innings last year, but 50 of them were at AAA, so they didn't have quite the same amount of stress and high leverage on them as it would 150 major league innings. So they seem unsure about what to do here, guys. And I think it's interesting what Turnbull's going to turn into. Is he going to be a right-handed Matt Strahm, where he gets 2 or 3 innings like Strahm did at the start of last year? Do they piggyback them? Do they alternate starts sometimes? And Chris Sanchez goes to the bullpen, and if you're moving Sanchez around, you're taking this really good young left-hander who seems to have found a groove, and now you're messing with him a little bit. Liz, I'm a little bit concerned that they're trying to be a little bit too cute here. I get Spencer Turnbull has been awesome in the starting rotation, but you can't just throw away a starting pitcher in Taijuan Walker, which is what you'd have to do essentially to just say, Spencer Turnbull, you're our guy moving forward. It's a tricky problem. How do you think they're handling it?
They seem to just trying to be rolling with the matchups at the time, which I guess is fine. It is a high level problem. It is a good problem to have. I don't think they're trying to be too clever. I don't know if we know what they're doing yet. Do we know what their plan is? Do they have a plan?
They keep saying they're going to say, and then they're like, well, could do anything.
Okay.
Really.
So I don't feel so bad not having, because they don't know what they're doing yet. I'd like to wait and see what they do, because I, by and large, trust them. I trust them to make the right decision. And until I see otherwise, I don't see reason to believe that they're, being too clever. I would like them to shield Spencer Turnbull a little bit, because I'm worried you send him out there another couple of times and he is just begging to be shelled. He's been very good, but I think he's due for kind of a hard regression if they keep sending him out there. So I think that's part of the calculation here. You want to shield him and try and stop that from coming, or at least soften it a little bit by giving him some innings in the bullpen. So I'm eager to see what they do.
Yeah, Justin, I think I'm a little less concerned with Turnbull and Walker, two kind of veteran guys who I think will figure it out. And even Walker himself said, hey, listen, Turnbull's going to be back in the starting rotation at some point this year. Injuries happen, things happen. He's pitched well enough to stay in there. But the thing that I don't want the progress that Christopher Sanchez has made to get lost with uncertainty. Like in the other night on Saturday, the Phillies won 14-3, so they didn't need to use him in that game, but they had him in the bullpen in case they needed him. And if he was going to be used in the bullpen, then Turnbull was going to get his start. Now it's Sanchez is going to get the start, so Turnbull goes to the bullpen. And my concern is just kind of that uncertainty. Starting pitchers like to know, relievers like to know when and how and where they're going to be used. And so I guess really it's just a comfort thing for those guys. And Rob Thompson's a good manager. He knows what these guys are all about. I guess he has an idea what these guys are capable of handling. And I don't know what the right solution is. I would feel more comfortable if you're going to mess with guys, make it Walker and Turnbull, and just kind of let Sanchez do his thing. That would be my main goal here, is to make sure there's not a setback with Christopher Sanchez with kind of shaking things around.
I think that's generally what the Phillies want to do here, regardless of how reluctant they are to commit to a particular blueprint. And they also might have one, and they're just not sharing it with us, because what reason do they really have to do that?
I need to know. I do a podcast. I need to know.
If we can hear what they're saying, the teams they're going to be facing with these pitchers can hear what they're saying, and maybe that's something that would come back to bite them. So
perhaps.
I'm not my instinct is when you see these kind of piecemeal plans that seem like, oh, if Rob Thompson was playing cornhole, he would just throw all 4 bags at once. And you're like, well, that's not really a strategy, but at the same time, guys want to fill whatever role this team has available. I mean, when the Phillies acquired Spencer Turnbull, Todd Zalecki wrote that it seems likely he will open the season in AAA Lehigh Valley unless he makes the bullpen as a long man. That was initial projections for Spencer Turnbull. Everything about this, Sanchez pitching in the back of the rotation and being given, time to develop, Walker re-entering the rotation after coming back from injury. These were things that were scripted and supposed to have Turnbull filling in because one of the starters wasn't available. These were all scripted events. This was why Turnbull, I think, impressed them in spring training enough to be like, okay, you're not going to start the season in Lehigh. We're gonna use you up here, and also because Walker made that role available. So the real wild card here is really only how well Turnbull pitched.
Yeah.
And how well he has continued to pitch. That is the real wild card for the Phillies. And again, you talk about good problems. This is a big one.
The best.
To be like, wow, we have too many pitchers. We want to get out there. Now, what Liz is saying, I think, is a completely valid concern that a lot of people have, which is that his innings count has not been over like 56 and change since 2019, I believe.
It's been a while.
So
been a while.
Last time the Phillies were ahead of the Braves in the NL East. So,
That's right.
So, that is not nothing. That is definitely not nothing, and it's something to plan with, around, for, however. But long story short, this team has got to, they're going to have, like Walker was saying, they're going to have enough pitching issues that Walker's going to make more starts this year. It's more about just spreading them out and just understanding that Walker is also here to make starts and hasn't looked too awful or anything, and certainly not unreasonably bad for a guy who's going to be pitching out of the 5 spot in the rotation. Like, this is, again, kind of a scripted event. So really, again, the biggest problem here is that Spencer Turnbull has pitched too well, but you want to be able to take advantage of that in the future by having him well rested, by having him, continuing to pitch and not losing his groove. And as far as guys wanting to know what their roles are, that makes total sense. And I think guys on the Phillies would benefit from that as well. But if the Phillies are in a position where this isn't really a time where we're ready to, at least as far as we know, publicly state what guys' roles are, everybody, correct me if I'm wrong, but every pitcher, every player whose role is somewhat ambiguous or confusing or reliant on somebody else getting hurt first, when they stick a microphone in their face and they ask, how do you feel about your role here? Or what is your role here? Or what's going on? The first thing they all say is like, I'm just happy to be here. I'll do whatever they want. This is totally, whatever keeps me on this team with this roster, with these guys works for me. And again, maybe they're going into the clubhouse and smashing a bat against the wall. Probably not. But, you don't really know how guys are reacting to things behind closed doors. But what they're presenting is that they are a team where guys are willing to fill whatever role is available. And, I'm sure Turnbull would rather be starting, and he'd tell you he'd rather be starting, but you also can't trust starters to make that call. That's why there's other people here. What the Phillies are saying to him is, wow, we want you on this team. Problem is, we want a lot of guys on this team because we just wound up with this many guys. So I think the general idea of moving him into the bullpen now, knowing he'll probably have some long relief to do in the weeks to come, knowing that he'll probably get some starts in the months to come, knowing that Walker is able to pitch probably not into the 7th, but, let's keep our eye on that, knowing that Sanchez is a back of the rotation guy who's been able to produce, these are all things that are good for the Phillies, and they seem like they're taking the route that is the most careful way to keep it all balanced, and that is in their best interest right now.
Yeah, I agree. And, Turnbull could be, I don't think he really has. If you're Spencer Turnbull, you'll take whatever the Phillies are willing to give. You're playing for the best team in baseball right now.
What's he gonna do?
You've been out of baseball.
The Yankees called me. I gotta go.
Right. So that's a fair point.
And what I think pitchers want a lot is they want to know their role, but I think what they want as much is clarity, at least knowing what the plan is and what the manager wants from them. And knowing that, all right, well, I might have to be here to help the team and pitch tonight. And that'll mean tomorrow that these guys pitch instead. But, I think just knowing what all that is important. And I think Thompson's specialty is telling them.
Yeah. I hope that fire truck isn't coming to one of y'all's houses behind you there. Is that?
It's in my neighborhood. I'm We live pretty close to a fire station. No tornadoes.
Okay, that's good.
So
That's
much
good.
love to all of our the Phillies fans that I know out in Oklahoma and Kansas. It is rough out there. Stay safe.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right. Well, look, hey, the Phillies wrapped up this 4-game series with the Giants. Again, best record in baseball. They are rolling right along. And up next, you've got the Toronto Blue Jays coming in for a quick 2-game series at Citizens Bank Park. And the Phillies will have an off day on Wednesday coming up this week before they go down to Miami and play the Marlins. So good times. The Phillies' schedule continues to look like it's going to be fairly well set up for them to continue piling wins together. Let's get to some final thoughts here as we wrap up. Justin, final thoughts from you, buddy.
Just wanted to put it out there that if you like what Alec Boehm has been doing to start this season, and you're someone who was clamoring for Kevin Long to be fired, you are an incorrect person. I'm not sure how else to phrase that nicely. We got the story that, as usual, Kevin Long worked with Alec Boehm, made some adjustments, and basically spearheaded the campaign to stop swinging at pitches outside of the zone. Boehm said, oh yeah, it's really easy once you figure out to not do that.
Yeah.
It's actually much easier. And apparently, there was a bit of strife there where they bonked heads a bit. I think this was coming from the Sunday Night Baseball broadcast or maybe the Baseball Tonight podcast. I can't remember, but it was they didn't really see eye to eye for a minute, but they circled back, came together, worked it out. And now Boehm's hitting like an MVP. So this is why you don't clamor for the hitting coach to be fired, because he's not showing up in the clubhouse going, hey, today, let's not hit and see what happens. I'm going to try it again. I know it hasn't worked for a week, but let's keep not hitting because that's fun. Also, John, you mentioned really offhandedly the 1991 home win streak of the Phillies.
Yeah.
When I saw that stat, I figured that's ripe for Dirty Inning material. So we'll be talking about that win streak on the next episode of the Dirty Inning, which will debut this week on the Hittin Season Patreon.
I can't wait to hear that, because that 1991 13-game winning streak by that team, that came...
16.
Was it 16?
I believe it was 16,
I think it
16 home wins.
Yeah,
in a
16
row.
home wins, but it was an overall. They had a 13-game overall winning streak during that stretch.
Oh, I see. Yeah. No,
So,
I'm focusing on the home winning streak of 16, which starts with a game they barely won 2-1 over the Padres, in which Lenny Dykstra had an eye-bulging, ump-shoving ejection.
I'm shocked.
I think he escaped from getting suspended because the shove wasn't directly shoving the ump. He ripped himself away from John Vukovic.
I remember that.
Fell into Larry Boa, who then fell into the umpire.
Dramatic.
And him and Boa were able to swing it, like sleazy lawyers, into being like, well, I never pushed you. I just pushed a guy who pushed you.
Yeah. It was like human dominoes. I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that specifically. Yeah, that 91 winning streak came out of nowhere. They were 20 games below 500. And it was as a kid, that was one of my first moments. You're like, oh my gosh, this is what consistent winning is like. This is amazing. Anyway, Liz, final thoughts.
I just want to give it up for John Kruk. I've been listening to the TV broadcast, trying to make a point to listen to it when he's on more often, because he's always been a wealth of incredible baseball stories, but he's hit a new high lately. Talking about the time he got shot by West Virginia farmer who apparently owned one of Secretariat's offspring. See, for stealing beer out of the guy's carpeted barn.
Carpeted barn.
Throw in the carpeted part,
Yep.
just so you go, what?
Why?
Yep.
They do that. Well,
It's like carpeting a dining room, but worse. Why would you do that?
Carpeting a kitchen. That's
Today,
not...
today he said there's not many ugly guys in baseball nowadays.
It's true.
I mean, that's fair.
I think in an athletic story recently, he talks about being turned away from Padres spring training by a cop because they literally did not believe that he was he was a Padres player. He tried to park in the employee parking lot, and they said no, you have to go around. Literally,
he's told that story before.
I was going to say that might have been in his autobiography.
that might have been, but I love when he tells it.
He's told that story.
It's my favorite. I love it. Just he's just sort of reached this new plateau of I don't know what it is. It's a new type of baseball. It's a new type of retired baseball player, really.
Somebody tweeted a picture from the '93 All-Star Game of him and Barry Larkin and Ken Griffey, and they were like the GOAT and Griffey and Larkin, and Kruk's reply was, "Who are those guys?"
Just the best.
When you're winning, everything's working right, man. And Kruk is just having a good time in the broadcast booth. You're right, Liz. He's been doing some great stories and stuff like that. So, well, folks, we got a good baseball team on our hands. They're going to try and keep it rolling this week. I'll be back with a midweek podcast, and Justin and Liz will have a podcast for you at the end of the week. So if you're not able to catch all these games, make sure you check out Hittin Season for your updates, recaps on everything going on with the Phillies right now. Check everything we've got going on over at billypenn.com/Hittin Season. That's our landing page, and you can read all of Justin's work over at Baseball Prospectus. You can hear the Dirty Inning as well as Absolutely Hammered at our Hittin Season Patreon. That's patreon.com/Hittin Season. And of course, read all of Liz's fine work at Yahoo Sports by going to sports.yahoo.com. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time right here on Hittin Season.